So then we move on to somebody else. Speaking of leaving MMA, if it comes to that, he is leaving MMA. Cain Velasquez, your former UFC heavyweight champion, is done. He has notified the UFC he is officially retiring. He has withdrawn from the USADA testing pool. He will now, what do you want to call it?
Just say it,
He's
Luke.
going to go do the wrestling over in WWE. I guess, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Brian Campbell. He's going to face Brock Lesnar at the end of this month.
October 31st in Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, real quickly on this one, because I'm going to pitch it to you first. That whole it's controversial to do WWE or any kind of sporting event in Saudi Arabia. Boy, that died fast, huh? Because before, correct me if I'm wrong, the previous is called Crown Jewel.
They've had 2 to 3 events so far, yeah.
But it was like the nubber events. It wasn't the good ones. They're bringing the heavy hitters for this one, and everyone's like, yeah, we don't care about the human rights abuses anymore. Okay, but forget about that for just a second.
Okay.
I know Josh and Ruiz are going to be there in December. What do you want to say about his MMA legacy?
First, I want to pause and say it's pretty remarkable that we're in this third boom period in pro wrestling and everything's hot right now, and pro wrestling made it into this rundown on this week's show. I never thought we'd see that.
Well, I came in from here's the thing. I'm doing a bit. I don't know what to say about on the pro wrestling side, but there is an MMA conversation to be had.
All right, there is an MMA conversation.
Say what you want. What's the big takeaway?
The big takeaway for me is remorse about what could have been. And you could say, look, he's 37. We may have already known what wasn't going to be because of the consistent injury streak. But I still believed. I still believed that what I saw in his absolute prime before that, or really in the midst of that insane stretch of one injury after another that pulled him out of the cage, is the best heavyweight fighter I've ever seen. And I know we're going to lose subscriptions because people are going to go, you'd put prime Cain up against prime Fedor? Yeah, I think maybe I even would. Certainly, though, within the UFC banner, the best heavyweight I've ever seen, better than Couture, better than Miocic, maybe better than Cormier. And we never saw him get to really show that. And it was the injuries, it was the layoffs. Luke, he's had 3 fights in 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we really have to remember that. If you go back and actually do the math and look at the stretch, it's like missed 13 months, came back, knocked out Travis Brown. Missed 33 months, comes back. And then we know the sort of heartbreaking for Cain way that he lost to Ngannou before the fight even started. We never really got to see. But what's crazy is because he was so good in that initial rise, running through Brock, knocking out Big Nog, just really doing big things, we suspended our disbelief that this wasn't going to be a tragic tale. At least I did. I mean, even up to the point where just on his comeback, he's 37. We know heavyweights age late, but I'm still like, don't worry. He's going to come back. He's going to figure out health. He's going to get back in there, and he's going to show you because you can't unteach the cardio. He's got the wrestling, and he's tough as nails. But we never got there. And he's a 2-time UFC heavyweight champion, so this isn't a sob story. This isn't a tragic story. This isn't somebody that partied their way out of their legacy. But look, you can't sit here and tell me he didn't show you in that brief prime that he was special. He was certainly next level, and still going to be an all-time great, going to probably make the UFC Hall of Fame, all that good stuff. And from a personal standpoint, now he can put the heartbreak and the injuries to the side, make a ton of money because wrestling is hot, and he had multiple suitors. WWE threw a crap load of multi-year money at him, and now he can be in a scripted environment where they don't script in the injuries and the tragic heartbreak. But for me as a fan, and for me as somebody who rates legacies, this is a tough pill to swallow.
How much do you think he's making?
It's hard to say. I haven't dug too deeply in the dirt sheets, but considering the competition, AEW, which just launched as a rival to WWE right now, they were after him. New Japan was after him. So I'd have to think it was just an offer he couldn't refuse, which...
10 million?
Not that high, but in the millions.
5?
Enough for him to say, why am I going to go through these training camps, get these injuries, potentially get these losses? I mean, look, one thing I'll say, the heartbreak he must have endured while going through this, that must have been hell.
Yeah.
Knowing what he brought to the table. You think I'm overblown at all? Did you see the same thing in him as a fighter in his prime?
No. If you missed it, it's hard to explain. You know, if you didn't see Cain Velasquez, here's what was so funny. When he retired, it made news in MMA headlines. It didn't make the news I thought it would. And it kind of broke my heart to see that a little bit, to be quite honest. Dude, if you didn't see Cain Velasquez as he was running through everyone, I got to tell you, when he was on Bodog Fight, I remember talking, I don't know if it was to Crazy Bob Cook or somebody else, I remember them going, dude, this is the guy. This is the guy. And you know this story too. Every manager you talk to and every trainer you talk to, they say the exact same thing. And then you watch them compete and you're like, maybe they were onto something. And then he makes his UFC debut in his 3rd fight and just ran through everyone like a freight train.
And he, by the way, he had that. He had the hidden weapon. I mean, he had 5-round heavyweight cardio, which is not really a thing.
And also
historically.
to be a Mexican American. And here's what I want to explain to people: when he beat Brock Lesnar at UFC 121 in Anaheim, you can go see reaction shots of it on the internet. It was akin to imagine if, it was like when Adesanya beat Whitaker, except imagine everyone was on Adesanya's side. It was a little bit, I dare say, of McGregor beating Aldo, where you had this reigning king, not in the same way that Aldo was, but somebody holding a title, and then this young upstart challenger, not really beating him, demolishing him.
Well, talk about forgotten narratives. Let's remember this narrative. When Lesnar beat Shane Carwin and came back from the deep, dark depths of hell at UFC 116, he became for a brief period a folk hero in MMA. It was like this guy just walks into the sport, wins the heavyweight title in his third fight or whatever, and then just gets up from hell against this beast in Carwin, who we didn't really know had 1 round PED cardio at that point, possibly. Don't sue me, but you get my point.
Yep.
I came into that fight going, yeah, Brock will figure it out. He'll find a way. And then you get that sober reality this guy has no flaws.
Yeah, and it was never close. And then to look in the crowd and to see all the Chicano and Hispanic Americans bringing the house down. You thought at the same time, when Izzy just beat Whitaker, you thought, wow, dude, he's about to do amazing things in the sport. Or when McGregor beat Aldo, same thing. You're like, oh my God, this is the takeover. That is where Cain Velasquez was. And don't get me wrong, the most important fights he had in his career were the trilogies, obviously, with JDS. But again, on that big stage, he gets knocked out because of injury, but he didn't deliver on Big Fox. And then he goes away because of all these injuries. I remember I got so nervous after this one. When he beat Brock, I remember it was Dave Meltzer out of Yahoo reporting he had torn his labrum and his rotator cuff. I had just had, not too long before that, labrum surgery in my shoulder. And I remember, dude, it took me a full year before I felt like myself again. I was aggressively rehabbing 3 times a week. I was like, dude, he's going to be gone for a while. Sure enough, he was gone for over a year, and then constant other injuries all the time. All of this is to say, if you're a superstar, you have 2 periods in your career, Brian Campbell. One is your race to the title, and one is what you do with it. And that first period, flawless. The second period had its bright spots, but it did not deliver on the promise. Also, last thing on this, to have a heavyweight, people tried to make it Chris Arreola, but it really wasn't. When Cain Velasquez, again, after beating Brock Lesnar, to have a Mexican-American, whatever you want to call him, champion at heavyweight, dude, he was a unicorn. He was a total and complete unicorn. The UFC must have thought, oh my God, we hit pay dirt. We're going to take this guy to Mexico. We're going to open that market. We're going to capture this Hispanic origin audience, whether they speak Spanish or whether they don't. We're going to cross worlds. The promise
He's going to be our Julio Cesar Chavez. That's what they thought.
And they took him down there to Mexico, and he couldn't make it the first time out. And then when they finally did, he lost.
Well, that's why his retirement.
So crazy.
That's why there wasn't big fanfare when he retired. He never had that true charisma. It's what makes people question.
The fans who got here after McGregor and Rousey, they don't understand Cain Velasquez at all.
And he certainly never lived up to what he could have been as a superstar. Didn't own the moment with the microphone, which makes you question him going to wrestling. Now we find out he's a natural. He can do moves in a wrestling ring that smaller luchadors can do. That's why he's going to have a chance at lasting. But look, I know that we don't talk wrestling on the show, so here's my big moment.
Thank you, Jesus.
Okay, we the people. Shout out to Jake Hager there. But
are you rock hard with him?
Yeah, I got a phoner, just like
By the way,
Jack
I went back and
Swagger.
listened to that. He never said phoner. He said straight up boner.
No, he said phoner.
Dude,
I had to look up Urban Dictionary what it means.
We played it on my radio show. He flat out said boner. He said boner.
Oh, shout out to Jake Hager on that one. So, as it pertains to wrestling, because we're never ever going to have this chance again, because you'll donk me out of this show if I try it.
Yes.
Will you care? Now, you are a wrestling hater, but there's going to be a lot of casual or lapsed wrestling fans who are now being offered by the WWE the Brock-Cain rematch. It's going to happen in Saudi Arabia. It's going to happen under BS Wrestling and all that. But that's creative matchmaking. That doesn't necessarily suck, right? Would you care at all to see what happened, to watch it, to watch a stream, to cross streams, to do anything involving?
I'd rather watch my family killed in front of me.
You don't mean that.
No, I absolutely mean that. You're like, oh, you're not a pro wrestling fan. I prefer the term adult. Actually, is the word I would choose.
Yeah.
No, I won't. It's like with Rousey's thing. It's like if that's what you like, you like. But for me, no, it doesn't mean anything.
So that Tyson Fury.
It's
also
like, would you watch a Cain Velasquez Brock Lesnar chess match? Like, no.
And I'm not going to say he's nailed it. He came back. I don't know if you saw him shirtless. He probably wants to hit the gym with the Brown Pride tap before he.
Are you really gonna body shame?
I will a little bit because Vince McMahon's sitting there going, "Hey, buddy, can we get some candy for the big man? Can we get on the juice here? Can we do some things here?" But what I'm saying is here, Luke. All right, I don't want to be the bad guy, but I also don't want to deal with your stupid games about this. People are going to kind of care about this.
I'm not. Dude, I hope he's successful. I'm not anyway. I'm just saying it's not for me. You're asking, is it for me? No, it's not for me.
Okay.
But is that pay-per-view going to I guess they don't sell it to the MSOs anymore. But is it going to be highly watched? I suspect that it will be, right? Isn't Brock still hot?
Yeah.
Not as hot as he once was,
Right.
but still relevant.
He's still,
right?
and you got the Tyson Fury element. By the way, but going to Saudi, I think with the boxing match going there, it's kind of allowed people to take a step back, and it's now becoming normal.
Yeah.
But it's also because WWE was shameless in their doing it. Like they were just straight up like, this is for
I'm
the
surprised
money.
they didn't have beheadings in between matches to appease the Saudi
Like
government.
it's like when you're in grade school and you sleep over somebody's house and you're like, wait, your mom, dad, and your dad's girlfriend all live under the same roof, and it's cool. And they're like, yeah, it's cool. Like that's just basically what they're presenting to us. And after a while, I think the same thing with the steroid users in baseball, Luke, that have admitted it. Right? The
sure.
Giambis, the Pettits, we're just like, they're good dudes. They're good folks. But it's like the diehards, the McGuires, and the others who just won't do it, won't bite down.
McGuire eventually admitted it.
I probably did. I gave up on baseball.